Lawmakers and gun control advocates hope a new law that takes effect in June will help keep guns out of the hands of potentially dangerous people. The law calls on mental health workers to report persons who may be a threat to themselves or others, so they cannot legally purchase guns. ABC 7's Sarah Schulte is joining us now with details on this story. Sarah?
Well, Cheryl and Ron, sponsors of the new bill say had the law been in place last week, in theory, it may have prevented the Northern Illinois University shooter from buying a gun. Mental health experts, on the other hand, disagree with that. The information given to state police about someone's mental state would be confidential and would only be used for firearms ID card purposes.
Steve Kazmierzak, the NIU shooter, Sing-Hee Cho, the Virginia Tech shooter, both men had a history of mental illness, yet they were able to purchase guns legally. A new state law that begins in June may prevent that from happening in the future.
What we're trying to do is have a common sense gun safety measure.
Following the Virginia Tech massacre, Illinois State Senators John Milner and Dan Katowski sponsored a bill that would require mental health professionals to report patients who are a danger to themselves and others to Illinois State Police. In turn, police would either revoke or prevent a person from getting a firearms owner ID card. A FOID card is necessary to purchase a gun in Illinois.
The bottom line with this piece of legislation is getting guns out of the hands of people that shouldn't have them.
It's a bill that some mental health experts say is useless and could prevent people from actually seeking the help they need.
But the real problem is that most people who seek mental health treatment are not violent. And those who are violent don't seek mental health treatment. So I fail to see the point of this rather silly and I think misleading piece of legislation.
It is not known whether Steve Kazmierzak was ever deemed violent by a mental health professional. Dr. Ron Davidson says the bill is a way to place the blame on the mentally ill and the burden on mental health professionals.
You're far more likely, as a member of the general public, to be killed by your husband or your spouse or your neighbor by a firearm than you are by a random act of violence by somebody who has been diagnosed as mentally ill.
Gun control advocates say lawmakers should be targeting guns and gun makers instead. Right now, the only screening for mental illness on a FOID application is a question that asks the applicant if he or she has been a patient in a mental facility in the past 5 years. To get that gun card, Steve Kazmierzak had to answer no. And he may have answered it correctly, because we still don't know if he'd been in a mental facility in the last 5 years.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.